For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint.
What if we removed cars? What if we got rid of streets? What if we innovated in the public space?
Designing to protect and enhance nature. The line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers.
The kingdom is promoting this project worldwide with internet ads.
By leveraging AI technology, services are autonomous.
All schools in the area will have holographic teachers. Traveling around Neom will be a breeze too, since residents can avoid traffic with flying taxis.
Cable TV commercials, and a series of online explanatory videos.
Energy and water supplies are 100% renewable. The line is designed as a series of unique communities, offering a wealth of amenities. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions.
While it sounds like something out of a science fiction novel, the Saudi Arabian government is determined to have this city become a reality by the year 2025.
And of course, it's built on top of a hyperloop.
And the line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel end to end in 20 minutes.
And one of the key assets of the line is their advanced transport system. Its underground trains are supposed to be operating at over 300 miles per hour, but are there trains reaching that speed at the moment? There are 2 options, maglev and hyperloop trains.
And of course, it was promoted by Matt Farrell.
I've done a deep dive on hyperloop in another video, which I'll link to in the description, but to break it down quickly here, it's essentially a maglev train in a vacuum-sealed tube.
Huh. A vacuum train then? Like a 100-year-old idea. I mean, there's no way you could say that someone just invented this, right?
Elon Musk proposed his Hyperloop concept back in 2012, and since then he's encouraged innovators to try to make it a reality. As of today, version Hyperloop 1 seems to be the one that's in the fast lane or track, with their pods designed to glide at near supersonic speed of 670 miles per hour.
Wow, outstanding. Virgin Hyperloop is the standout company. I wonder how they're doing now.
Richard Branson's company signed a deal with KSA's Transport Ministry to assess how Hyperloop could fit the country's innovative infrastructure plans.
Now, you might think I've busted some big, dumb projects in my time, but this one leaves them all in the dirt. Waterseer, a mere $333,000. SIO, all in some $20-odd million. Hell, even the parking counter was only $100 or so million. The Hyperloop, $500 million. Now that's walking around money. Then when you get into what some might consider the big hitters, like Energy Vault or The Boring Company, both companies with billion-dollar valuations and either with no commercial products or where the biggest contract the company has ever had is 1/50th of the valuation of the company. Theranos, $9 billion, and we're still, believe it or not, in the chump change region. Even if my predictions come to pass that the whole Tesla bubble bursts and Tesla gets valued like a regular automaker, that is, that Tesla shares lose some 95% of their value, that would only constitute a mere trillion or so dollar loss. Now we're going to tackle the big league stuff. We're talking journalist dismemberment league. $100 trillion. Welcome to Neom, the line.
A 170-kilometer revolution in urban living. Protecting the Earth's most stunning nature while creating unmatched livability. What if invisible technology generates carefree and open urban space? A home to all of us. Welcome to the line. Neom.
And how experiences come to life. This is where we can change it all. Neom, made to change.
Imagine you're a genius of logistics, a master of technology and special planning, the very apex of artificial informational biotechnology.
It's time to rethink communities so that we can connect and create the way we were meant to.
Now forget all of that and imagine your geometry class has just gotten past point and has finally graduated to line.
It's time. It's time to draw the line.
And you've been asked to design the most sophisticated city that you can think of. Or maybe you just watched a little too much Game of Thrones and thought, hey, that wall thing, that's really cool. If only we could have one of those, but like in the desert, not winter is coming, maybe summer is coming. All we got to do is genetically engineer the fire giants to build it. Not even joking. You see, typically cities are organically circular because of geometry. Or you're on average closest to the rest of the city with a circular geometry. A line is just a dumb geometry for a city. I mean, seriously, what advantages do you have for a city with a geometry like this? Yeah, coming up for Neom's next great design, when they get to page 3 of the geometry textbook, will be the square, or even better, the circle. But ignoring that for a second, cities classically grew up around resources, most importantly, water. This is why almost all of the historic cities have rivers going through them. Like Prague, big river through the middle of it. Dresden, big river through the middle of it. Berlin, big river through the middle of it. Paris, big river. London, and so forth. You know what would be a really dumb idea? Would be building a city for 10 million people where there's no water. Incidentally, you should probably take this as an exercise as to why Elon Musk is 4-star full of crap with his Colonize Mars project. Building Neom, a city with no natural fresh water supply, would be a cakewalk compared to doing this on Mars. I mean, if you can't colonize the desert, you have zero chance of doing it on Mars. Where there's no breathable atmosphere or anything. Now, in principle, they are fairly near the ocean, and you can use desalination. Pushed a lot by people like Israel. Well, it's more expensive, but it is possible. Incidentally, an option that I should stress won't be available on Mars. Just like there's no air supply available on Mars. But the water for drinking is just a tiny fraction of what people need. To keep hydrated, you need a few liters per day. Add the showers, toilets, and so forth into that, and you're up to about 100 liters per day. So why is the typical per capita use around 1,000 or so liters per day? Well, it's simple. You've got to grow food. Cities cannot feed themselves in any geometry. You've got to grow the food somewhere. So let's say, I reckon that minimalistically you need 370 square meters of land to feed a person. Assuming they're a vegetarian and all that sort of thing. If you're like me, like a lot of us do, then you're probably looking at almost adding a zero onto the end of that number. Times by 10 million.
The line will be home to 9 million residents.
And you're up to 3.7 billion square meters. Or if you put that alongside the line, 170 kilometers or so, it would extend out about 20 kilometers. Or looked at another way, if you were to stand on top of the line, you wouldn't be able to see the edge of the arable land needed to feed the line. In fact, in one of the earlier videos, they actually get the scale of these things about right. Although, of course, in the earlier version, there is no giant skyscraper thing through the middle of it all. And also, rather curiously, the line just stops when it goes over mountains somehow. It's kind of magical how it all works. Then there's the slight issue of cost. We're basically talking about rebuilding New York City, but in the middle of the desert, because reasons. The line is basically the height of the habitable part of the new World Trade Center.
The line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide.
With World Trade Center 1 costing some $4 billion and is about 50 meters wide. So 2 of those would be about $8 billion and would constitute about 100 or so meters of the line. Cool, so let's extend that down now 170 kilometers, and we get a price tag for just one side of the line as being some $14 trillion. And that's just one side of the line. The line is proposed to be basically 2 lines of skyscrapers. So, putting the total cost at some $30 trillion. And that's just the cost for the tall buildings. And that's before you factor in the, power stations, food production, or the Hyperloop it's built on, or any of the other fancy stuff like robot teachers.
And the line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel end to end in 20 minutes.
Innovative Project is going to be one of the most technologically advanced cities the world has ever seen.
The city would be run totally on smart city technologies. Robots will play a key role in security, logistics, home delivery, and care provision. Neom's water distribution network will be connected entirely through an advanced Internet of Water infrastructure.
We replace outdated urban services with new services driven by artificial intelligence.
Initial plans for the city include drone taxis, a Jurassic Park-style amusement park, and a giant artificial moon that lights up nightly. Reports state that the futuristic city-state is being built using artificial intelligence and clean energy sources.
So yeah, let's add a little factor, let's say 3 times for the super futuristic city. So let's say, I don't know, $100-ish trillion. Cool, so where is this $100-ish trillion going to come from? Well, apparently Saudi has proposed making a $80 billion investment fund. Well, that's a good start. Now you just need 1,000 more like that, and you're good to go.
The Saudi Arabian government has announced that it will invest $500 billion in the Neom project.
Or looked at another way, if we took the entire GDP of Saudi Arabia for about the next, say for instance, 100 years, you might just be able to fund this. In fact, this wasn't far off Khashoggi's point when he criticized Neom.
Neom project, this futuristic city, that he is planning to invest $500 billion in it. What if it goes wrong? It could bankrupt the country.
And enhance nature. The line will be home to 9 million residents.
Jamal's last article in the Washington Post, published after his disappearance, was all about the need for freedom of expression in the Arab world.
But no one's allowed to criticize it.
But no one allowed to write an objective piece in any newspaper saying,
He was, of course, lured to the Saudi embassy in Turkey and murdered by the Saudi government. Initially, the Saudis said he left the embassy. The fact that the CCTV didn't show that, well, that was just kind of inconvenient. Then they later changed the story to he had accidentally been strangled during a fistfight, and the whole dismembering the body and dissolving it in acid thing? Well, of course, that's what you do when you accidentally strangle someone inside your embassy. And Khashoggi is far from the only critic of the Saudi government to mysteriously vanish. Like I was saying, we're talking big boy money here. But none of that will change the fact that the project is fundamentally dumb. It's proposing using technologies that don't exist to build a city for which there is no call in a dumb place. I mean, seriously, where are the 10 million people going to come from who are going to live in this skyscraper city? I mean, for reference, that's about 1/4 of the people who currently live in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Dubai tried something similar to this with the Palm Jumeirah, which, to be fair, wasn't a complete disaster. Well, not in the way that the follow-up projects were unmitigated disasters. There were going to be several much larger projects, which all got shelved when they realized there simply wasn't a demand for it. And these now gigantic multi-billion-dollar projects like The World have lain largely abandoned for the best part of a decade. The thing is, the people who pitch these projects are, of course, unbelievably wealthy, and maybe not the most in touch with the needs of regular people. So let's see if we can spot the parts of Neom that have been built so far. Well, you might notice there's a sort of smallish airport there. Well, it'd be enough for a few planes anyway. It's certainly not servicing 10 million people off that. And if you sort of come up the coast just a little, you'll find the only bit of Neom that has been built thus far, which you'll notice, that bit in the middle is called Neom Palace. Built, of course, for the regular people with everything within 5 minutes walk. No, they're just standard luxury billionaire villas, complete with a golf course. Now, oddly, the reason that Saudi Arabia is trying to do this does actually have some logic behind it. That they want to spend the oil money that they've got to do something sensible for their economy when the oil runs out or oil demand starts to decline, such that it won't be entirely devastating for the kingdom. But this ain't it. When you ask for what the demand is for a new city with a silly shape in the middle of the Saudi desert, I think you'd be lucky to pull in Palm Jumeirah numbers. But it looks like demand dried up in the tens of thousands-ish, which means if you wanted a population of 10 million like the line, you would need about 1,000 of these. In fact, let's do that. Let's put the Palm Jumeirah and the line on the same scale. And just so we're clear, the Palm Jumeirah is the little one there. And if we had the line on the same scale, it looks like this. Indeed, the Palm Jumeirah also has prophetic messages for the line in the response that people had to living there, with the New York Times reporting in 2009 that many of the people who had bought houses there before they were built were furious about the space available now and the way they seem to be living on top of each other. Which you can kind of see. And what was the plan for Neom again? Having people living even closer together in 3 dimensions.
All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
And this is before you get onto the fundamental issues of trust. Would you actually go and live in a city where everything of yours is monitored, run by a government that is known to have kidnapped people in their own embassy, killed them, with top Turkish officials adding that they believed Khashoggi's body was dissolved in acid after being cut up. The reason they dismembered Khashoggi's body was to dissolve the remains more easily. Yeah, let's just say there are some outstanding trust issues here. And of course, it goes without saying that if I do mysteriously vanish, don't let them forget this video. I mean, sure, it's not likely, but honestly, having seen some of the outrageous stuff that the Saudi government tried to pull off here, let's just say I wouldn't put anything past them. But until then, how is Neom the most expensive thing on this channel that I've ever bastard? Liking and subscribing might be good whilst there's still an option to do so, as is supporting the channel through Patreon. And until next time.